You put like any vegetable in front of me except for tomato. I fucking hate those things.
You hate tomatoes?
I hate tomatoes.
Like even ketchup?
I'll eat ketchup.
That is tomatoes.
Yeah, but it's different.
I feel like that was
You
like
taste-
me when I was 12 years old.
Take a bite out of tomato and then take a sip of ketchup. They're different.
Thanks for tuning in. This is the Scope Exposure podcast. This is we actually don't have a name for this yet, so this is the pilot episode. We're at Cole's house, and Cole's our guest today.
In my house.
in Cole's house. So yeah, Cole, give us a little intro, just who you are and what you do.
Hey everyone, my name's Cole. I take photos for the hardcore scene and the metal scene here in Calgary. And Edmonton and pretty much anywhere you want, but mostly just in Calgary and Edmonton. Yeah, just been taking photos and doing art and screen printing and pretty much anything I can to help out the scene in the way I can. Just been doing that for the past 5 years or so, mostly with photography, but screen printing and the art I've been doing for a while too.
Sweet. So let's take it a little ways back and just kind of do your hardcore origin story. So how did you get into listening to heavier music and just like the scene in Calgary in general?
So I guess I kind of just got into heavy music when I was younger. My uncle showed me a lot of like old school metal. I was super into just like Iron Maiden and like Metallica and Megadeth and all the classics, and then eventually just got into the other genres that kind of music spawned, and got into hardcore probably when I was in high school. I was into shitty music as well, but when I got into hardcore, I guess one of the first shows I ever went to was a Withdrawal show here in Calgary, and I just remember just how insane it was, and I had never seen anything like that before. It was at the New Black, and that was an older venue, but
do you know who was playing that show?
It
Besides
was
Withdrawal?
No, I don't. I just went for Withdrawal because that was one of the few bands that I had known. But I'm pretty sure it was when Cody DeWald and Jay Bones were playing in it.
Yeah,
so it was pretty cool. Yeah.
That band is very, very old.
Yeah, they've been ripping it.
Yeah, for a long time. So you're wildly known in Calgary for taking photos of all the hardcore and metal bands. How did you get into photography in general?
I'd say that I kind of just got into photography by just seeing other people's work and just wanting to create things, I guess, is one of the main things I've always wanted to do, is just create stuff with various techniques, whether it be like art or photos or screen printing or anything. Like I don't usually stick to just one thing, so I like to do various things and create in multiple ways.
Cool. And we actually had to redo over the podcast because we were getting some audio stuff, but you were mentioning that the first show that you took photos at was a Mortality Rite show.
Oh yeah. So when I first started getting into photos, I think the first band that I ever took photos was probably Snake Pit. And that was before I knew any of them. That was before I knew anyone really. I think one of my only friends here in the scene was Chad. And both him and I were both new to the scene. We were both young guys. And yeah, just taking photos or just bringing my camera, I guess, was the first thing. Had never taken photos at a show before. If you look back at them, they're horrible. They're the lighting, they're unedited. I think I just edited them in Photoshop. That I just messed with the brightness and contrast. There was no actual editing to them, and I think I was using my Canon T3i Rebel, so it was it was a pretty like starter camera, I guess.
Everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. One of the questions I had was, what's your current setup, but also maybe talk about how that evolved over time, because I think a lot of the times either people will start taking photos of bands with like a starter camera like a T3i, or
Yeah.
even like I've seen some people taking photos, like I guess nowadays you can do it all with your phone, and it's like really good quality, but either they don't get started because they're like, oh, like people nowadays they have like a really like crazy camera, like any of the Sonys, or any like that. So maybe talk about like your beginner setup, and then kind of where you are now, and
Okay.
that range of improvement and experience in between.
So I had a Canon T3i Rebel was my first camera. I think I just had like the stock 50 mil lens that it comes with. I think I eventually had bought like a cheaper fisheye, which I started shooting shows with. And if you look back at some of my earlier photos of mortality rate, you can see the fisheye and how bad I didn't edit the sides of it, and the
So
flash.
like
I didn't.
distorted?
Yeah, and I didn't have an external flash. I was just using like the top piece flash, and
Okay.
so it left like a big black piece underneath the photo every single time
Right.
I would take a photo. So it was just like you'd see all on the sides, and then there was just like this huge piece that was just always underexposed, and it was horrible. It was horrible. So now I'm using a Canon 5D Mark II. I have a few different lenses, but right now I'm using another fisheye lens, which I just got.
Pretty recently.
Yeah, I got it for Christmas not too long ago.
Which is that? A Sigma?
Yeah, it's the Sigma. I think it's I can't even remember right now. I think it's 6 mil. I can't remember. I'd have to go and check.
Yeah.
But it's pretty wide. I love it. Just been seeing a lot of different work from people lately. Just like I guess a few people that I can name that I take inspiration from would be like Angela Owens, or like Eric Easterday, are a few of my favorite photographers.
Yeah, and I think also like I've seen some similarities to like even like Rick from Capture the
Oh
Call
yeah,
as
I
well.
love his stuff. Yeah.
because he shoots with a 15 millimeter or something.
Oh yeah,
like that.
maybe that's what it was, a 15 mil.
Yeah, because I think if it was a 6, it would be like a super fisheye, like with
With the full circle.
right?
Yeah, that would be nice. I want to get another
which
one.
you can do with the hood.
Yeah, I can put the hood on, but it still crops it a bit. I think it still has a little bit of a crop on the circle.
And I think like Angela Owens' work, like that's very apparent for me as far as what I've seen, because you do lots of like black and white stuff.
Yeah, she's like the goat of black and white.
Yeah. Did you shoot in color before and then go to black and white? Or you've always kind of done the black and white?
Yeah, I've always just kind of done the black and white thing. It was just my jam. I've just always been into like darker kind of art and darker looking things. I just love metal and horror movies and everything disgusting. So yeah, I've just always been into like that kind of just darker style of things. I'll do like color stuff if people ask, but I always just kind of edit and do most of my stuff in black and white.
Yeah. You're not here to make things necessarily look pretty. It's just to make it look like crazy or evil or whatever.
Yeah,
however you
I like to kind of put my own kind of take on things and my own kind of style on it.
Yeah. Because originally, when we didn't live in the same city, because I'm from Winnipeg, I was like watching a lot of your stuff kind of like from a distance. And you were doing a little bit of video as well, but not as much anymore.
Yeah, no, not since you're here. You taking it.
Yeah.
You've taken it up. But that's
Well, it's not because I'm here and it's like, oh no.
no. You're good at it. That's why you're doing it though. So it's
Thanks, man.
I used to do it with just my camera, like the DSLR, and it got good video, but the audio thing, I never took any of the steps that you've taken to do audio at shows like Liam or anything like with the H4s and or the Zoom the H4n Pros.
Yeah, and that can really like make or break a set sometimes.
Yeah, and I think audio is super important for that kind of stuff. So like if you look back at any of the videos I've taken, the audio is just blown out to shit, and like it's cool looking, but like you can't really hear anything. And like when people come and watch the videos, you want to be able to like at least tell like what they're playing, right? Like you don't want to just, I don't know. I guess it's kind of cool to see people flailing around and stuff like that, but they're playing music, so you should be able to tell what they're playing.
Yeah, one of the first shows that I remember attending in Calgary was it was the mortality rate sleep deprivation release, and I drove out for that. And I
Okay.
remember, I don't think we were necessarily friends at that point, or I think I knew who you were, but we never like
We haven't talked yet.
online.
Yeah.
And I was having some issues with one of my SD cards or something like that, and I remember you took some videos of withdrawal and mortality
Oh
rate.
yeah, that was probably the
And
last few
yeah,
videos
because I
I've
didn't.
taken.
Yeah, I think this was well before Scoped, but I think I was
Mhm.
like just starting to film sets,
Yeah.
and yeah, I didn't because I was having issues and I was getting frustrated, so I just put my camera down. And then I would watch back at some of your videos, and I'm like, yeah, the audio was like, I was like,
Terrible.
just
Yeah.
like the whole time. But it was still nice because I was like, I wanted to go back and like relive those,
Yeah, they're
those
kind of cool to
moments.
watch back if you
Yeah.
go and look at them. Some of them are pretty.
Especially
old.
like seeing Withdrawal because they're not a band that comes to Calgary like very often
Yeah,
anymore.
that's very true.
Yeah. So kind of getting a little into another topic. I know lots of people know you for your photo stuff, but not as many people know you for your graphic design and your screen printing. So what are, and I know because we're friends, that you're kind of leaning more into that nowadays versus doing photos all the time.
Yep.
So what are like, some of the things of where you got those skills, and what are some of the things you're doing now to execute on them for bands or for yourself? Because I know you run a bunch of different projects.
Yeah, so I guess I've just kind of like I've always been into art and mostly like metal art. Especially like album art is like one of my biggest things in anything. Just the differences that people can do and the different art styles and paintings and all that different kind of just like aesthetic in the metal kind of side of things has just always been super intriguing to me. I've always wanted to just create things like that, and like t-shirts is one of the best ways that's kind of just been around. Yeah, and I've been collecting shirts since I can remember. If you go downstairs into my room, I probably have over 100 different metal shirts. I still collect them, even though I freaking screen print them every day. Yeah, I love t-shirts. I love art. And that was just something that I kind of just got into. I guess with the drawing side of thing, I kind of just picked up a pencil and started just drawing what came to mind. I was never really good at it. Yeah, and then I kind of got into different kind of like styles of art and using photography to do different kind of art styles and pieces for people. And now I don't really do much of the drawing stuff anymore. I have an iPad now that I've been kind of just working with lately. Yeah, and then for screen printing, it was the same kind of thing. Like I never knew how to do it. No one ever taught me how to do it. I just was like, hey, I want to try doing this. I'm gonna go buy a starter set from online. My parents actually got me a starter set for Christmas. It's the press that I'm still using currently, actually. But yeah, I just picked it up, and this is back in the day, probably like 3 years ago, when Setback was still a band. But we had tried my first shirts ever that I tried printing were for Setback, and if you look back at those shirts, they're absolute trash. Like the emulsion on them on the screen came off. So all the prints are different. It was like, oh, it was so bad. They're just the worst looking shirts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of just got into it through that. Eventually started going to this place, Stanley's, where I would get all my screens made. I wouldn't have to do any of the emulsion or anything myself, and I would just get them to do it. And it would just come out way better because I didn't have to get like the light table and all sorts of the other machines that you would need to kind of get that kind of set up for yourself.
Sure.
And then after that, I eventually applied there, and a month later I got a job. That's where I'm currently working. I've been learning a lot about screen printing and the different techniques that you can do, and the different inks, and the different sides of printing. And like, there's just it's a whole different world that I kind of got into. And then personally, that made my ritual threads a lot more just like higher quality. I've been pumping out a lot, just like better stuff, and the quality of my stuff has just increased a lot. So.
And Ritual Threads is like your printing little side hustle kind of company, right?
Yeah. So, I kind of like just started that with my friend Frank actually a while ago, that I play in Snake Pit with now. He and I just had started doing that. That was back in the Trap House days, which was an old venue that a lot of my videos were actually from.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you take photos while you were at the Trap House too?
yeah, there's photos from there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about the Trap House really quick for
Okay.
anyone who doesn't know what that is.
Okay, so a few years ago there was like a house in the Montgomery area, that a few other delinquents and I lived in.
Delinquents.
No, I love those guys, but we all lived in this house, and we threw house shows in our basement, which we had a nice big spot in the basement. It was a pretty big area. We didn't ever get noise complaints or anything, but we threw like shows there every month or so, and it wasn't like, there was always like a pretty good turnout. There was like, I think the biggest one we had was like a New Year's Eve one, and there was over 100 kids that had showed up, and it was
Wow.
crazy. Yeah.
And yeah, like what's the cap, do you think, as far, like, I know it's not an official venue, so there's not like an official
Yeah.
like attendance cap, but
Yeah.
like how many people do you think you could fit safely in that basement?
Safely, it was probably around 100. Actually, I don't know if that's safe at all, but who knows? Actually don't know. I just remember that one show was just ridiculous, and there was a lot of kids, and the cops never came, surprisingly. So that's cool.
And I saw some videos from that, but it's it's kind of hard to map out like how things were laid out. So was it like unfinished, or
Yeah.
like, how
So
was the
it was an unfinished basement. It had like just like cement flooring. There was no. We had a couple couches down there. It was just all unfinished sides, and all the walls were unfinished. Surprisingly, like the sound didn't carry very much though. Like if we had the door closed, like
Right.
there wasn't, like, you could be outside and you could obviously hear bands playing, but it wasn't like, oh my God, there's people throwing this crazy party here.
Yeah.
But people were outside, and I'm very surprised the cops never came.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool.
What was the reason why shows don't happen there anymore? Obviously, you don't live there anymore.
Yeah, it was just kind of like a rundown house, and like, there was just like a lot of people, like a lot of the homies were living in there, and it was just a lot for all of us to be there at once, and
Sure.
and continuously like, be putting shows on there, and some of us had other issues, and like some people had personal issues with things, and some people just wanted to move on and go on to different move other places, or work issues and stuff like that. So eventually the place we just left.
So is it still like standing today?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I drive by it every once in a while to see if it's still like normal, but yeah, it looks like there's people there living there and everything, which is surprising.
Maybe like don't put on shows there.
No, I don't think any
anymore.
shows happen there anymore.
No, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing about what we do is from the archiving standpoint is that if shows stop, or if there's if there's reasons why shows can't happen at a venue anymore, at least you kind of preserve things through photos or video. I know a venue that we always shot up in Edmonton was the KDP Small Hall.
Yeah.
And that was a great like all ages venue.
For real.
And I think they just had too many noise complaints, and no, shows don't happen there anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was actually
I think
closed.
that's what, like, it's still open obviously, but like they said no more shows. Because I think a lot of the time when bands would play, or at least sound check, like it's like right in a suburban like area.
Yeah, that's true.
So like the doors would be open, and then people would be like
meh.
Who are these? Who are these kids? Turn on that racket.
Tear it down.
But yeah, that was like a really small, perfect for hardcore shows.
Yep.
Really cheap to rent too. So
Yeah.
that
was a cool place.
I guess what I was trying to say is like even though it doesn't happen anymore, it's nice to have those sets to be able to look back and remember that. I know there's like venues back in Winnipeg when I wasn't shooting shows that I kind of wish I had some, footage of, like the Grave or even like the Purple Room. The Purple Room was a place that we always had like Sunday matinee shows.
Okay.
So like started at like 2 and then ended at like 7, and you're like, sweet, I can go home and like have dinner, versus like going to like a hardcore show and then
I like that kind
you
of stuff.
get hoping at like 11. So one thing I wanted to ask you on the printing side, obviously that's a big passion of yours, and like now it's what you're doing for your job.
Mm-hmm.
What's maybe a misconception that you can break about screen printing as a whole? Because it's definitely interesting on a music industry side nowadays, where bands don't really make money off their actual music,
Right.
but they might make money off their brand,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's through shirts or other kinds of merchandising. So for you, like, what are some things as far as designing that bands or maybe people who are just like getting into music, or people who run a record label, where they don't think about from the design or
The designer aspect of
yeah, like if there's anything in the process that people aren't thinking about.
Well, I think a lot of people just assume that like you take a design and then you can just put it on a shirt, or like you can just like it's just a simple thing. It's all about the colors. It's all about how many colors are on the shirt, obviously, and like the design. Like if you have just a black, like a lot of people think that black and white and gray is like black and white. Like if you just have a black and white picture of like anything, they think that that's just like two colors or whatever.
Right.
But really, it's like all the shades of gray, all the shades of black, and all the shades of white that all blend together. So there's so many different spectrums of colors, and a lot of people don't understand that. So I guess that's a big issue. But I think that's just like a newbie kind of thing. Like anyone that's ever ordered shirts or got designs for shirts, they would kind of understand the kind of process that not all designs can be printed, and like you have to kind of like simplify them in certain ways. Yeah, so like you can get like 10 color or 12 color shirts, but
you need special equipment to do that level
correctly. Yeah,
you primarily do like single color on single colored shirts.
Yeah, single color shirts, any color shirts, any color ink, but as long as it's just the single color, that's all I can do currently. If you wanted to do 4 colors, you need to do, or 2 and higher, you have to have a 4-color press or 2-color press or whatever, how many color press, and then you need to have the proper heating equipment for it, which requires quite a bit of money. You need to have a heat press for the separate colors, because you have to heat cure the color as you print it. And then when you get to the end of the shirt, when all the colors have been printed, you have to put it through a dryer, which cures it to the proper temperature, which does the final curing of the inks.
Right.
So all that equipment is pretty pricey. I have a 4-color station right now, which I got a year ago, and I would love to get it set up, but I just need to get the dryer. So that's the next step for myself.
And how much is that, the dryer and the 4-color?
So I think I paid around $2,000 for the 4-color station, or the 4-color one station, because you can get multiple stations on a press, so you can be printing more than one shirt at a time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Instead of just one person doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also need to get the dryer, which will cost around. I need to get a good one, so it's going to be like $6,000 or so. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
and that takes up some space as well.
Yeah, that's another issue. So I don't have a shop where I print. Like I don't have like a rented spot where I print out of. My parents' place, actually, they have a pretty big basement up in Bears Paw, so they're graciously letting me print in their basement. But yeah, if I wanted to get the dryer, it needs to have proper ventilation. Yeah, so I can't just be printing thousands of shirts with this massive dryer exhausting
Yeah,
fumes out of it
just,
in
like,
their basement.
You're just laying on like cement, just
Yeah.
like. Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure my dad would help me out and like maybe do some sort of ventilation thing, or he could like, I don't know. Down the line, I need to just get a shop and step my game up and
But right now, it's mainly like you have a single color, and then you don't have to do any drying in between because it's a single color, and you just hang them up. Is that correct?
So I used to do it that way when I was printing with water based.
Okay.
So I would just have these like hang dryers, and I would just put them up on the lines, and I would let them all hang. Come back the next day, they'd be fully cured because that's with water based. But normal screen printing for most style of shirts is printed with plastisol ink, which doesn't cure and doesn't dry ever. So if you were to get it on anything and not cure it, it would stay wet and it would stay in its form until you cured it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if I were to like put a little piece of plastisol ink on you by accident, by just say it just dropped or something and you didn't notice it, it would literally just smear everywhere and it would never dry unless you had cured it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so like basic shirts, like this is all printed with plastisol ink. This is plastisol ink.
Yep.
So that was all cured with a nice heat press. So I have a flash cure, which is what you're supposed to use in between colors. So you'd print a color and then flash it. So you're doing the term of gelling, I guess. So you're not fully curing. You're just getting it to that temperature where you can print another color on it without it smearing on the backside of the other screens.
Mm-hmm.
But not fully curing it to the point where it's completely finished, if you know what I mean.
Oh, okay.
So I have the flash cure, but since I'm doing single color stuff, I can do the flash cure and I can bake it to 320 degrees, which is the final temperature you need to get it to be fully cured. So I've just been doing single color stuff with plastisol inks with the flash cure. Yeah.
Cool. And then like, I guess the unsaid thing of all this is like the actual amount of time it takes to do that. So I know like, if I was just like, hey Cole, I want to do like 30 shirts, single color or single design, just the front. Like how much time you don't have any other shirts or work to do like from start to finish?
So 30 shirts wouldn't take me that long. Like if it's just the front of a shirt, like I can print all 30 within an hour at least or shorter.
Okay.
It's just the drying part too. Like it's basically, if you have a lot of money, you can get those dryers, and like when you're done printing your shirt, you would just throw it on the dryer, and it has a conveyor belt, and it just sends it through, and it completely bakes it. So it pretty much eliminates the whole flashing thing that I'm doing. So after I'm done printing, I have to go to each shirt.
You're kind of skipping a process.
Yeah, and I pretty much have to take another. Yeah. It's pretty much twice as long to do the drying part of it, which sucks. But that's just my fault for not having the proper dryer for it.
Or $6,000 just kicking.
Yeah, I guess that too. But down the line, that will save me a lot of time, and that will be super handy. And I can't wait to get into the 4-color stuff because I'll get so much more business. And there's already been so many people that are like, oh, come on, like you don't have 4-color, or like you can't do 2-color. And I was like, fuck.
It's like it takes time and it costs money.
Yeah, I have the press, which is also really killer because I got it last year and I haven't even set it up yet because I can't even use it. So it's like, yeah. Eventually though, I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah. I know another thing that you kind of show on your Instagram sometimes is you do bootleg shirts.
Oh yeah. Shh. No, I don't.
No, he doesn't. So if you were doing that hypothetically, how'd you get into or not get into that? Sure.
I guess just like if I was doing like horror bootlegs, just always been into horror shirts and horror movies, I guess. And trying to find a shirt that you personally enjoy about a movie is hard because a lot of like movie shirts are super cringy, if you know what I mean. Yes. Like they're like just like hideous, like, and the designs are always just like weird and like not cool. So I guess like I just with bootlegging, like I kind of like most of the time it's like just designs that I can't find, or like I'll always go and buy a shirt regardless. Like if it's a band I like I'm the first one to spend money and actually support that band. But
Sure.
um, it's like things like the horror shirts, and like some of the bands. Like I've only done a couple bands, and it's just like old death metal bands that aren't even playing anymore, or like Bolt Thrower is one of them, is a pretty well-known bootlegged band.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like making shirts so I can wear them myself, so I don't have to spend ridiculous of insane amounts of money on the OG versions on
Yeah,
eBay and
because
stuff
like
like that.
rare shirt. I think I was like looking up, like vintage, or just like older shirts for like Slipknot, and like
Yeah.
they'll go like for crazy money on like
Yeah.
eBay and those
How much
things.
is a Slipknot shirt going for?
Oh, like easily hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
I guess for the like just Slipknot across the chest,
Just the
because
logo.
you're right. Like there's a plethora of Slipknot shirts out there, but lots are just like
Super cringy.
super metal.
Oh yeah.
Like, or and I'm like, I just want the Slipknot name, kind of like how Power Trip has just their name
Yep.
on those shirts, but like those shirts are hard to find,
Mhm.
or will go for decent money online.
Yeah, so like another thing is like I wouldn't ever bootleg like Power Trip or anything like that. Bands
Right.
that are like
A current band.
currently still doing things, and like it's, yeah, like I don't believe that that's right, and like I know that that's a huge issue with things, is that people steal people's artwork, and they they just like print it without consent, and obviously, and all that stuff. I think there's like a fine line of like doing that for the right reasons, and like doing it to make money off it, and kind of like that's never been kind of like the thing that I want to do with bootlegging. If I was ever to do, it's always I'll make like 5 shirts and sell to like my friends. Like
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
not
I'm,
doing anything to push a
No.
dollar. Or
and I don't
inflate your
have anything online. And I'm never like making hundreds of these shirts or anything. It's always
Right.
like 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's like you throwing up like an alien design.
Yeah,
or
and
a
like
predator thing, and you're
I'll do
like,
the horror ones, because like the horror ones are a little bit different. The band ones I will do very, very small runs of like. And I don't do those often, because I know
and it's
how.
purely for like shits and gigs. Like,
Yeah, originally it was just for me, so I can wear the shirt myself. And then
Yeah.
I'll make a couple extra for people if whoever would want one. But like, yeah, I don't go out of my way to make bootlegs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And that was maybe that's a great segue into this question about, going back to talking about bands and how they make, money, not off their music anymore, but off of merch and things like that. And talking about like good design for bands. So what are some ways that you think that bands can have good design with their merch, but not be too, not copycat of other bands, but like kind of be true to who they are? Because there's lots of bands that, or designs that are like kind of safe bets
Yeah. So
or trends, I guess.
yeah, I know what you mean. So I feel like a lot of bands that start out, they don't hire anyone to do their art, or they'll just make us like a old English font of their logo or something like that. And I think that's one way of like doing things. Like obviously it's a good way to start things, but if you want to do a good design and you want to stand out, you should hire someone to do your logo. You should hire someone to do a custom shirt for you, just to get that different, and do like different artists, or have a homie that you always go to. And like, I guess that's a lot of like Feeding always hits me up for shirts. They always just let me do whatever I want, which I love. And they always let me design their shirts, and that's one of my favorite things about them, is just they're just such good guys. And
Did you do their logo too?
no, so Jason Barnett, or Barrett, I think, he is the vocalist of the band Petrification.
Oh, okay.
He did their logo,
Cool.
and he also did Setback's logo.
Oh, yeah.
So it's also, yeah. So he was one of my favorite artists, but I think that's just something that you should do as a band, is get someone to do your logo, and to hit those artists up out there, and get them to create things for you.
And what's your opinion about, supporting either local or Canadian artists versus, artists you may have found on Instagram and they live in, Texas or
Wherever.
Budapest or
Yeah.
wherever it is?
Yeah, I think that's like preference, I guess, is like I've never really tried to just hit up solely just Canadian artists or anything. The most artists that I follow are probably from the States, honestly, and I guess like yeah, I would never have any preference. I would just wherever they are, if I like their art, I would hit them up.
Yeah, because it's hard to also like, if you have an artist, like I'm sure there's been lots of times where someone's been like, "Hey, can you like?" They'll show you someone else's artwork and be like, "Can you replicate this?" You're like, "Well, I can't like copy and paste it essentially because you need to do your own spin on it at the
Yeah,
end of the day."
yeah. So like out of the people that like have hit me up for actual designs, like most of the time they usually just let me do what I want, and that's my favorite thing is when
Yeah,
people just like
creative control.
yeah, and they say a few words and they say a few like ideas, I guess, but they never really give you that complete kind of like we want it to look exactly like this because like I'm terrible at that.
Yeah.
I am the worst at designing things that people are looking to like where they actually what they actually want, if you know what I mean. Like it's kind of hard. It's a hard game because like I don't I'm I want to be able to create things like just for what people want, but yeah, I think that's just it's hard to do that with the styles that I have, I guess.
Yeah, because some people like I know there's artists like David Quigley who he does all the album artwork for all the Face Down bands,
Okay.
and so like every release that Face Down has, it's like they're all kind of unified that way because you can recognize his artwork kind of from a mile away. Like he did, Means, like War of Ages, like every single release that Face Down had from like forever, as far as I know. But yeah, I think it's good to support, people who are like in your local circle. But if there's a specific style that you want,
Yeah.
yeah, like hitting up those people, and it's a good way to like connect those people too, because you can use that as like a way to, get your name out there in another way.
Yep, true.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Something else I wanted to ask you. I've been like, I need to go to the bathroom, but we're doing this podcast, so
No bathroom breaks.
no bathroom breaks. Maybe talk about one thing I want to ask on the photography angle, because you do lots of like you did everything hardcore related as far as I've known you, but you also like you're a big metalhead.
Yeah,
So
more so than anything else.
More so than anything else in my life.
I am the metal.
You, the metal written by Tenacious D is about me. But yeah, you film lots of metal bands, and we've definitely been doing a lot more metal releases on Scoped.
Yep.
I would say like predominantly because of you, but diversifying. So what's maybe a big difference that you're kind of taking into account when you're shooting a metal band versus a hardcore band?
I guess with hardcore bands, like, I always want to just like obviously not be in the way of people like moshing and stuff. So I try to stand on the side. So I guess that's kind of with metal too, but yeah, the different styles is more just like people are moshing differently, and I need to just be more aware of the different styles of that. And like, I usually just always set myself up somewhere safe, and I edit pretty much the same way with metal bands and hardcore bands. The only difference is that I get to take pictures of people doing spin kicks and jumping in the air and flailing to opposed to the long-haired headbanging style of things, which I love.
Like headbanging in a row.
Yeah,
like
perfect synchronized headbanging. Oh my god.
Have you suffered any mosh hits while taking photos?
I've taken blows like myself. My camera has thankfully never taken a hit. I've been pretty close. Like, there's a video, if you look back at one of the mortality rate videos, Evan McIsaac does a spin kick, probably like it's so close. You can see like the kick like instantly. And I think actually for their video, if you go back and watch their video that they made, They took some of the footage that I had
For
made.
what? Climate change?
I think it was climate change, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But at the very end, he's doing the spin kick, and they slow it down, and it's just like,
Oh, is that at the trap house?
no, it was at the church.
Oh, I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
But man,
that was the closest I think ever.
I think the first
but,
time I
yeah.
filmed the fest in Calgary, Evan McIsaac was wearing an Ottawa Senators jersey, and
Yeah,
I was like, looking back at the videos, I'm like, this guy has the best two-step I've
dude,
ever
he's
seen.
the hardest mosher,
Yeah.
honestly.
He's
Fuck.
like, I want to have him as a guest on the podcast because he's got a lot of like crazy stories, like working in the
Mhm.
oil fields, and he's
Totally.
like kind of like a dog whisperer in a way.
Yeah, his dogs.
Because
are
we were
super cute.
staying, I was staying with Sophia at in Vancouver for the TBK, and Jose, which is Mishi's dog,
Yep.
was there, and he's a rescue. So he kind of like jumps up on people sometimes. He's great. I love him.
Mhm.
Super friendly. But Evan was staying, I think, the last night before he was driving back with a friend of his, and he like Jose kind of like jumped up and he like kind of held him in a certain way and
Mhm.
just like nope. And then it was like he was totally
He was the
fine
Caesar
after.
Romero.
Yeah, it was so weird. And like people in hardcore like love dogs, so yeah, that's something I definitely want to, explore in the
Yeah,
future.
we should definitely hit up Evan. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's a cool guy.
Yeah, I don't think I've had any like mosh hits necessarily.
Yeah,
Um,
you're usually in a pretty good spot, honestly.
Yeah, I'm usually a little bit elevated.
And you're taller, and everyone can notice you. I'm short, and everyone just sees me as a little midget, and they just fucking slam into me.
Yeah, just like a little like wooden stump. Yeah, I think there's been maybe once. I remember when it was like the scoped weekend, and I was in Vancouver again for Terror, and I was at the Biltmore, and it was just like tons of people like jumping right beside me, and their feet would like kind of like knock into me or kind of like kick my camera.
Yeah.
I know Tristan from Your Problem once. He was like swinging this way and kind of like it was like a love tap, just like it wasn't anything like crazy.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Obviously, they weren't intentionally trying to hit you.
yeah,
This is kind of the thing that you have to deal with when you're filming this kind of stuff.
yeah, and that's a huge thing that I guess like most people like recognize, but like the value of the things that we're bringing to these shows to document them.
Mhm.
I always look at it like it's National Geographic and we're going into like the wild, and like anything can happen really, right? Like someone could dive, someone could just like, I don't know, throw a PA on you or something. Like
Yeah.
it's a
Chair.
It's a wild world.
What's checks?
What's the craziest thing you've seen
At a
hardcore
show?
Yeah.
It was probably when
Calgary or anywhere else.
Well, I'm pretty sure the only things that have ever been brought were that baseball bat Dying Wish set.
That was
That was
crazy.
fucking sick.
Yeah.
What else was there? I think there was chairs. Oh, it was when Mortality Rate played with Homewrecker, and I think it was when Expire was still a fucking band. It was a while ago. I can't remember the band though. But I think it had something to do with Jeff from the scene. I'm not sure if you're aware of him.
Jeff.
He had passed away before you had gotten here, but
Okay.
yeah, he was in a band. I think he was the vocalist. This is before my time too, so I'm not even really sure. But I just remember that set being like they had the people from that band, because he was originally the vocalist, I believe.
Sure.
So they had someone else do vocals, and they did like a reunion kind of thing.
Okay.
And I just remember it just being fucking insane. And like it was at the National Music Center, when that was still a thing. And I just remember chairs just being thrown around, and it was just fucking wild.
I filmed Withdrawal for their 10-year anniversary, and I remember it was at the Daughter, and shit always happens at the Daughter. But speaking of chairs, I know, like I have this on video too, so you can go watch this set afterwards. But Adam Dyson, I think a chair was getting moshed around, and Adam Dyson grabbed the chair. And Adam Dyson is like known for, like, before I knew him, my friend Brent was showing me like 1920, like that was a band he used to play in, and just all his mosh calls were just so ridiculous. But he grabbed that chair that people were moshing, and he said, "Take a seat, motherfuckers," and just threw it into the pit, and just
Sick.
like it just got destroyed.
Oh god, that's
And then and then they also had like it was a bar, so they had ledges so people can set drinks. So I think it was what's his name? I can't remember his name, but he jumped on stage and then like ran across it and then jumped to like people like kind of where the horseshoe in a circle pit, not a circle pit, but in a mosh pit ends. He like was jumping onto people. It was crazy.
Oh my god.
I really need to pee, so we're
Take a
gonna
little
give the
break.
mic to Jordan, and
Jordan's
he's gonna
come in.
say his favorite mosh story, and you'll
I'll
talk to him
interview
really
him.
quick. Yeah, it'll be really quick though. We're just rolling with it. Okay, Jordan's gonna come in. No dead air.
No dare. Fuck.
No. I'll be right back.
What's up, dude?
Oh, what's going on, bro?
I don't know. Fuck, where are these headphones?
What a headphone.
All right. Holy shit, this has got a really big head.
Yeet.
Holy fuck. What's up, dude?
Oh, what's going on?
I was behind the camera. Now I'm in front of the camera.
Oh shit.
I'm the worst camera ops person ever.
Yeah, let's hear your favorite your favorite mosh story, if you have one.
I guess when Scope started, the what was it, Western Front? Speaking of chairs,
one of those, yeah.
chair got thrown in the pit, it got smashed, and one band, I think it might have been Worldview. I can't
Probably,
remember.
yeah.
Probably Worldview. Threw chains into the middle of the pit.
Yeah.
And then
that was
someone
sick.
took it, started spinning it around like crazy. That was my first fest, actually, that I've ever seen.
Cool.
And I don't know if you remember, but they smashed the chandelier.
Oh yeah, shit. They whipped
And
it up.
there was just glass everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Middle of the set, bar hand has to come out and start sweeping glass up while people are spinning around.
Yeah,
That
cool.
was. I was gonna actually say that behind the camera over there.
Yeah.
But I was
Totally
like,
forgot
nah,
about
I'm not
that.
gonna say anything.
We should give the AV person a mic.
Yeah, if you want to give me a mic, I'll like pop in every like. Where we at? I'll pop in every 46 minutes. It's my time now.
Yeah, the Jordan segment of the podcast is over.
Yeah, if you need any research, I'll just come in and do it.
Okay.
No dead air.
No dare. None.
Dead.
By the way, your head's really big.
Oh,
Nice head, bro.
thanks, bro. Did I miss anything important? I just couldn't hold it. Now I know.
Unbelievable.
Now I know for other recordings to go to the bathroom first.
Yeah, but haven't you seen Endgame yet?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh.
But
I haven't either.
there is a. I have seen the.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's like someone could be watching this like after the.
Actually,
third.
that we're allowed to officially post spoilers apparently after
Says
this
who?
weekend. The Russo brothers, the people that directed it.
Oh,
Do it.
It's been 2 weeks. People are like, if you haven't
Has
seen
been
it yet,
2 weeks.
yeah,
Oh, weird. I don't know.
right. Time
I'm
flies.
so behind on movies.
God damn it!
You watch movies a lot.
I love movies.
What's your favorite all-time movie?
That's a hard question, but probably the Thing or Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Why?
Old school effects are like one of my favorite things. The Thing is like perfect example of that. John Carpenter, just his whole style and like the alien side of things, like just the sci-fi gore, the monsters in it are insane. The story is cool. It's just an overall like perfect fucking movie.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I like Back to the Future, like the series. That's my favorite.
That's
I have a
those are
flux
good.
capacitor tattoo that
Oh,
I got
sick.
on Back to the Future Day.
Fuck yeah. I didn't know there's actual Back to the Future Day. Oh, I guess that's the day that they
yeah,
travel,
it's the
right?
day that they travel into the future. So it's the fuck. I'm gonna like hate myself for not
Oh my
doing
God.
the exact. I know it's like October 23rd, 2015.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or 27th or something. But I was a big nerd and I planned it like on the hour. Like this is when I want to be getting tattooed.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, I looked it up and not a lot of people. Like there was a couple other people, but not as big of a tattoo. I wanted to
Yeah.
get a lot smaller, but the guy was like
21st.
21st.
Yeah.
Well, everyone on the podcast now is like, You're not a true fan.
What a poser.
Yeah.
Just joking.
I didn't even go to Comic-Con to see them because I was just too busy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if it didn't.
I think it's more like I need to meet Christopher Lloyd before he dies. It's just one of those things. It's like you're old and you don't have many more years to live.
Yeah. Unless he goes back in the future.
Hey. Got him. One thing I wanted to talk to you about as well. You have been vegetarian for just over a year now?
Yeah, like this is the first year. Yeah, just the year anniversary, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you posted it was just like a couple days ago.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
in May that I had switched last year.
Yeah. And that's like a big thing, outside of just like normal people culture of, vegetarian options and
Yep.
veganism. It's definitely bigger and hardcore in
Oh,
punk.
hell yeah.
So maybe talk about how you made that decision and, one of the benefits or like your experience over the past year.
Sure. Yeah, so I guess it just kind of started with me always wanting to. I've always kind of wanted to be a vegetarian. My mom's vegetarian. She's vegan, actually.
Oh, okay.
So she's been vegan for a while. So she would always just make crazy vegetarian dishes, and I was never super into like vegetables or anything. I was always a meat guy. I fucking loved meat.
Yeah.
I just always did.
But in your house, it was always like veggie.
She would make
cities?
meat options still,
Oh,
and
okay.
make
That's interesting.
she'd make herself the veggie stuff, but like there's always some sort of meat thing that because my dad would eat meat, I'd eat, and my sister would eat meat. When we were
So
all
she was the
living
only
there.
one in the house
Yeah.
at the time. Oh, okay.
At the time.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, I guess like she works at the Humane Society, so I've always just like growing up, we've had animals. I've always loved animals. It's just always been an issue with me with the way that certain industries do things with, just like the way that they do things is absolutely just horrendous, and it's just something that's just always bothered me. And when I ate meat, I don't know, I guess I would just look past it, and eventually it just got to me. And my girlfriend that I had at the time, she was vegetarian, so we'd do things, and she would get vegetarian options, and then it was kind of weird just me eating meat all the time. So
Sure.
that was part of the reason. One of the reasons, just me wanting to make a change in my life and try to be healthier was one of the big things. Yeah.
And yeah, you did it you're in Vancouver. And you were
Yeah, so
doing-
we were on a trip in Vancouver, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to cold turkey try it right now. Because I had recently quit cigarettes as well, like a year before that.
Yeah. Clean living.
Yeah, so I'm trying to clean up a bit. Just be not a slobbery piece of shit. I still am, but like not as much, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we're drinking the Guru today.
Guru. This post is sponsored by Guru.
Yeah. We actually did a big shout out to them at the beginning, but we had to redo and adjust some audio. Yeah, because I think that's super interesting because, I don't know, seeing either certain musicians who are vegan post about that on Instagram or, people writing about their music or, just seeing bands who are like, we're a vegan band or we're a straight edge band. So you get a lot of like, of those messages,
For
said
sure.
to you.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it on the way here on how there's a lot of, stuff in society where it's kind of like forced down your throat, and it's more of a, just like a personal, not a personal choice, but like whether it's like a belief system or things like that. While a lot of the straight edge or veganism stuff or vegetarianism is more like conviction based.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm sharing this because of how I feel about the industry or, like on a straight edge perspective, like, like lots of, like someone in my life was an alcoholic or whatever it is. I know by your choice to go vegetarian, that got me thinking, just on like the cold turkey aspect. And I was like, I'm just going to do this
Yeah.
myself for a week. And I've been
Give it a
doing
shot.
that ever since. And that's
Dude, it's
that's
so
always been
easy.
interesting. Yeah, it's especially vegetarian
Yeah.
is easy.
Vegetarian is very easy.
Like you almost think like, oh, how could I live without meat? But then you like,
there's so many fucking
think-
options, man. It's just like
yeah,
you're dumb if you can't see how awesome like just eating vegetarian things is. Like it's crazy what you can do.
yeah. And I think like that's something that I don't know. At least for me growing up, it was always like pushing like the meat and potatoes, like
Yeah.
kind of
The staple
yeah.
food.
Because at least for me growing up, like I didn't like veggies necessarily.
Yeah,
like,
me neither.
I'd be like, I ate 4 carrots. That
I was
counts.
a steak and potatoes guy.
Yeah.
That's like what I ate. Fucking. I was a
And
big
there are
chicken
still
guy, too.
people to this day that are like 90 years old that are just eating, you know, like meatloaf and
Yeah, just
like
meat.
potatoes.
Yeah. It's kind of a gross word too. Meat.
Yeah, it's true. What are some of your favorite vegetarian dishes?
Ooh. I love like Asian inspired dishes.
Like stir fries?
Stir fries.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff. I love like Mexican stuff like burritos and Greek stuff. I love like
Falafel.
falafel. Oh my god, falafel is the fucking
Yeah,
best.
it's so good.
That's some of my favorite stuff. And just like eating vegetables again, just like I was always never into that kind of stuff. And like you put like any vegetable in front of me except for tomato. I fucking hate those things.
You hate tomatoes?
I hate tomatoes.
Like even ketchup?
I'll eat ketchup.
That is tomatoes.
Yeah, but it's different.
I feel like that was
You
like
taste-
me when I was 12 years old.
Take a bite out of tomato and then take a sip of ketchup. They're different. One tastes like shit. One tastes like salty goodness.
Well, it's also like, you know, Heinz ketchup is essentially just sugar
Yeah.
with food coloring. That's something that I've been watching too, is like how much sugar I take into things.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
you eat something, it's like, why does this taste so good? And you look and you're like, oh, there's like
There's a lot
30
of
grams
sugar.
of sugar in this. Like this Guru,
Yeah. What is it? This is organic.
well, this is 21, but it's organic sugar, supposedly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it says certified vegan, gluten free.
Oh. We're doing all these shout outs for Guru and we're like giving them free advertisement.
This post is sponsored by Guru. If you don't,
No, it's
if
not.
You don't drink Guru.
No, it's not.
Fuck you.
That should be their new slogan. But yeah, like I think there's lots of pros. I found for me like I'm pretty like energy deficient, so I feel like fatigued all the time and
Yep.
like not eating meat. I think it boils down to like conscious like meal prep and what you're actually putting into your body. Because
Yep.
sometimes it's just like I'm hungry and then you get a burger at McDonald's and then you're like, what did I actually put into my body?
Yeah, and yeah,
So how much planning do you do on a daily basis for like making meals? Because it is easier nowadays to like go out and, you know, like I grabbed a Beyond Meat burger on
Yeah.
the way here. But, you know,
I'll be straight up. I'm the worst fucking vegetarian ever.
I can't give advice on this subject.
I'm lazy. Just working. I used to work in the kitchen, right? Like at BP's.
Right.
So
Shout out to BP's.
Shout out to BP's. Pizza burgers.
Please sponsor us.
Sponsor. Yeah. Was always cooking all the time, and that just kind of. I never wanted to cook at home. I was
Right.
horrible at that. I still don't really do it. But I just don't like A&W is my jam.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't eat there every day, but like I go and I eat out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say I get Beyond Meat burgers more than I'd like to.
How many times a week?
Oh, that's really tough. Because I don't want to say like I
Don't
feel
lie
like
to us.
Well, I feel like if I tell the truth, then my wife will be upset. 'Cause
Uh-oh.
It's like, oh, you're spending that much on Beyond
Okay,
Meat
how
burgers?
much do we want to know?
No. I think like average, probably
Like 3 times.
I think twice a week is.
Yeah, I
is
definitely
easy.
hit at AMW. I think twice a week.
Have you done the breakfast sandwich one?
I have.
Oh yeah, we have talked about
Yeah,
this.
I didn't like it very much.
Yeah, you said it was like
It's dry.
It was dry.
Maybe the one I had was dry as fuck,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But I think like really recently they started selling Beyond Meat in the actual stores.
Yeah, so I think you can go in and actually get it in like
In barbecue.
it's in like the section of meat too, I think.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and I think that's like, it's definitely, you know, certain vegan friends that you and I have like posting a lot. Like I'm not one to post stuff or like say anything. That's just not something that I feel like convicted to do.
Yeah.
But you know, I get to headline read sometimes, you know, what's happening in the meat industry, and I think there's a lot of pressure being put on it.
Yeah.
Just
sure.
like how. But I'm just surprised on how a lot of people will see it and they are still like skeptical about it,
Like skeptical about
or just like, oh, have you had that Beyond Meat burger? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I have one like, you know, 2 times a week sometimes.
Yeah.
Like it's. I think I even had it before I started
yeah, 'cause
eating vegetarian, and it's like, oh wow, this tastes like meat.
yeah, it's the consistency of it is weird because it's like it's still juicy, you know. It's not like a veggie burger where it's
Yeah.
like kind of grainy, kind of just dry almost.
Right.
It has that like juice to it. Like it's almost it has that consistency of meat, so it's cool
Yeah,
and it tastes good. And it's
yeah,
not
because like,
an animal.
yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is like recognizing like any type of meat that you eat is like there's some animal that has died
Slaughtered
for it.
and
Yeah,
died for it. Yeah. And not humanely too. It's just
Mhm.
like it's just the worst conditions for these animals, and it's just something that doesn't fly with me, and I just don't I don't agree with that shit.
Have you? I think you've mentioned you've thought about going vegan.
Yeah, so
Where's your head space with that?
it's the worst to try to think about it because sometimes I don't know, it's hard. It's so much harder to do vegan than people are gonna give me shit for saying that, but like it is harder
Well, like
to do.
it is.
It's a different step than vegetarian because you really have to be conscious of everything, like the products you buy, the food that you buy, obviously, and like
I
there's
think
just
it's
so
a
many
lot
other
easier to be like, does this have meat in it? Yes or no, or you can kind of tell right away. Versus, does this have, you know, milk, eggs? Like, there's so many
there's so many other
finer
factors.
ingredients.
Yeah,
for a lot of things.
and I love people that are vegan. I think that's one of the best things that you can do, and I think it's a great thing. It's something that I will probably eventually do. Like I'll always go out of my way if there's a vegan option to just get that instead of the whatever option, right? So it's like I'm already doing steps in towards that. It's just like I guess just like eating cheese and eggs and stuff like that, which is still really bad because the dairy industry is equally as shitty as the meat industry.
Oh, 100%.
And that's a big issue still. So I don't know. I think eventually I'll just get there. I just haven't taken the steps yet because I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's certain things, like I think it goes back to just like consciously like knowing what you're, you know, purchasing or like what you're putting into your body.
Yeah.
Because I think, from like I'm a big coffee drinker and I normally only drink my coffee black, but you know like Bryn, my wife, will do like mochas, so like we rarely have like milk or anything in the house, but like sometimes we'll have that, so we can make her a mocha or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like never have like a glass of milk with dinner or anything.
Yeah,
like that,
no,
because
no.
like
It's gross.
yeah.
Now
Yeah.
looking back at it, like drinking milk is nasty.
Yeah.
Like I don't go to my way to drink milk.
Yeah, but it is like an ingredient for, and like with anything, there's, you know, substitutes. Like I think, I saw like oat milk is kind of like a bigger trend right now.
Nut milk.
Nut milk. Coconut milk. There's so many. But I think it's the way our society is kind of heading. Right
Yeah,
now.
and I think it's a really positive thing. I think the only people that are upset by that need to really give their head a shake because it's something that's that's good. It's dropping like emissions down, like just being a vegetarian or vegan, you're doing so much. And a lot of people will say that, oh, you're just being vegetarian or you're vegan, you're not doing anything actually to actually change anything. It's like, yeah, we are. You're literally not like you're not providing money for any of these companies. You're not that are slaughtering animals. Like it's something that just by making a small change like that, you really are making an impact on the world. And people that think otherwise are just ignorant, in my opinion.
Do you want to plug anything before we wrap up the show?
Make sure you follow and subscribe to Scoped Exposure. And
please.
Yeah. Shout outs to fucking Jesus for being a roundup dude.
You don't want to plug any of your actual stuff? Like your Ritual Threads, Snake Pit.
Oh, yeah. I'm in Snake Pit now, so yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Go follow Snake Pit. We're going to play shows soon.
There you go. Okay. Thanks for listening to the Scoped Exposure podcast, named To Be Determined.
Fuck yeah.
Please subscribe, and I will... I'm curious if this actually comes out. We'll see.
Okay, I'm down.
Okay, cool. Thanks for being on the show, Cole.
Thank you.
Was it a good time?
It was fun.
It was fun?
Yes.
Are you just saying that for the recording?
It was horrible.
Okay. Okay, thanks for listening.
Okay, see ya.